Gentlemen, we got DiJonai Carrington once again. I mean, like she just can't get out of her own way at this point, huh? From raking people across the point, huh? From raking people across the head, playing victim, staying white privilege, wearing a blonde wig at that, right? Going on your phone, right? Going on your phone, breaking league policy, facing no punishment, showing black privilege in his league, going at the white girl once in his league, going at the white girl once again on August 23rd. Although it was your funeral last night, Caitlin Clark led your funeral. I enjoyed watching your funeral last night. It was pretty fun. But DiJonai Carrington, once again, more stuff just keeps coming out. She's bumping Caitlin Clark in the...
Welcome back to the Clark Update, where WNBA fans are seeing major controversy build around DiJonai Carrington after that latest collision with Caitlin Clark. Carrington is facing intense scrutiny right now, with massive questions emerging about what actually went down on the court and what comes next. As this situation blows up across the WNBA, fans are legitimately asking whether Carrington could realistically face another suspension from the league. And just how is the league office going to respond to this mounting backlash? Was this just a hard-nosed basketball play, or is there something much deeper driving this entire controversy? Let us get right into the tape today and break down every single angle. The WNBA might have believed the drama would wrap up once the final buzzer sounded, but what happened after Caitlin Clark got into that violent altercation with DiJonai Carrington only raised far more concerns. Why was Clark clearly still hurting? What specifically went down during that physical sequence? And why did the aftermath send fans into a total frenzy across social media? One critical detail became impossible to ignore as the video kept circulating, forcing people to ask if the league finally has to react. So what actually happened next? If you are enjoying this breakdown, take a second to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Believe it or not, over 67% of our viewers are not subscribed yet. It is completely free, takes 1 second, and helps us tremendously. So did you hit that subscribe button yet? Great, we really appreciate your support.
To the video.
Oh my goodness. DiJonai Carrington bookmarking this day just to get embarrassed by Caitlin Clark. The big bad wolf coming through, blowing houses down until she tried to blow down the Caitlin Clark brick house that was built by DiJonai. This lady was 3 for 11, 0 for 3 from the three. A terrible performance. My goodness, tried to come out and take the show, right? Tried to create her moment. And guess what, DiJonai? Now your name is DiJonai Carrington. Who cares? Carrington. Who cares?
The Chicago Sky had just gone down in defeat against the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark had just put on another clinic, and under normal circumstances, that should have been the entire storyline of the night. Instead, right after the final whistle, fans started circulating clips that flipped the narrative from the box score to something much more uncomfortable. Between multiple physical clashes and visible scratches on Clark's arm, what should have been a standard rivalry game turned into another heated league debate.
Routine rivalry game into yet another intense WNBA argument.
Just play basketball. Like, why is always got to be something with the same repeated offenders, man? Like, it's always like the less talented out of the group, right? The less talented ones always focus on everything but basketball. The ones that's talented, you know what they focus on? Putting the ball in the hoop. The ones that's less focused, that's less talented, you know what they focus on? They focus on being
extra. What happened next completely turned a regular basketball matchup into a much wider, bitter argument about overly physical defense involving DiJonai Carrington, making it nearly impossible to talk about Caitlin Clark without the internet, cooking up 17 different wild theories, running slow-motion replays, and crying for whistles on things that have absolutely nothing to do with actual basketball. DiJonai, why is it that every time you show up on my screen, it is never about basketball? Why does it always have to be drama and chaotic antics? Why are you acting out like that on the floor? Can we please just see some basic class and actual basketball talent out there? Give us anything, show us something. It is just like that classic meme with the stick poking someone to do something. That is genuinely how I feel about DiJonai right now. And look, let us be clear, this was not some fabricated beef cooked up by bored fans on a Sunday night. That video was real. Those clear scratch marks on Clark's arm immediately became a major talking point. On top of that, the heavy contact between Clark and Carrington came during a matchup with serious emotional history, calling out clout-chasing Carrington. You better be careful what you wish for out there. You were the one who circled August 23rd on the calendar, tweeting it out like a must-watch event, only for everyone to tune in and watch you fail. Oh, you thought she had a bad game? Caitlin Clark comes right back and knocks down 8 three-pointers. The Indiana Fever rolled to a 23-point win, making that Indy prediction look pretty foolish. Here is the thing though, visible scratches alone do not prove intent, and a hard foul is not always dirty. Look, basketball is a physical, high-contact game. Elbows fly, arms get tangled up, and sometimes a player walks off looking like they wrestled an angry cat, even when the contact was not deliberate at all. Because of all that history, every single matchup between these two was guaranteed to get broken down frame by frame like the Zapruder film. So fans were locked in when Indiana clashed with Chicago, watching Carrington get tangled up in another physical play with Clark. Then the post-game reaction blew up online as soon as clips circulated showing those visible scratches all over Clark's arm. Viewers immediately pointed out the scratches, the grabbing, and the aggressive holding, along with all the physical contact they felt deserved whistles, blowing this up into a massive debate about how Clark gets officiated. Right here is where this whole story becomes much bigger than just one player, one arm, or a single disputed play. You look childish and straight up corny going down the floor throwing shoulder bumps that is just plain weird, bro. We have to call it what it is. People acting like this are just being weird, and that is the honest truth. You get to mock somebody on the court, get away with it, and then intentionally bump them on the other end without any consequence. Just imagine the outrage if Caitlin had done that exact same thing to someone else. People would have completely lost their minds, crying foul all over the place. Because the real question was not just whether Carrington played physical defense like most WNBA defenders. She definitely did. The actual issue was whether the referees know where tough defense ends and an illegal foul begins. That is a much tougher conversation, because once fans lose faith in the refs, every single whistle fuels another conspiracy theory. One side sees Clark getting held and immediately demands to know why there was no whistle. Meanwhile, the other side just shrugs it off as standard hard-nosed basketball. If anyone thought this drama would rattle Clark, she answered back in the most frustrating way possible for her opponents. She simply went off on the court. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 30 points, while Clark powered Indiana to a 113-90 blowout with 37 points, 10 assists, and 8 threes. That gave her 5 career games with 30 points and 10 assists, already more than the rest of WNBA history combined. This was not just a monster night for Clark. That dominant win officially knocked Chicago clean out of playoff contention. All that trash talk and posturing only to get completely embarrassed on national television. Let us start right there, man. Why are you poking the bear? Look at her out there, once again desperately hunting for her own viral spotlight. Complaining to the refs and getting right in their faces like she did nothing wrong. Someone hand her a technical foul already. Give her the tech right now. She acts like she is just playing clean defense, but nobody is buying that act. You want all the smoke? Fine, because Caitlin is going to deliver it right to your doorstep all night long. Just hit pause and think about how ridiculous that really is. The entire history of the WNBA had 4 30-point, 10-assist games combined, and Caitlin Clark reached 5 all by herself. It looks like a typo on the stat sheet, the kind of wild number that forces you to do a double take. But the numbers are real. Sitting right beside the viral pictures of Clark walking off bruised and scratched up from a brutal battle, looking like she spent all 4 quarters dismantling Chicago's game plan, piece by piece. That massive contrast made it impossible for anyone to ignore the bigger debate taking place. Fans can argue back and forth all day about whether every scrape was intentional or just regular game action. But the wild part is, the more physical the defense got, the better Clark seemed to play. A heated face-to-face clash between Carrington and Clark threw gasoline directly onto an already simmering fire. Reports showed Carrington mocking Clark for flopping right after getting whistled for clear contact against her. Clark did not bother wasting her breath, arguing back she just stayed on the attack drilled a cold-blooded step-back three right in Carrington's face, instantly creating the defining highlight of the night. That matchup Carrington had circled on her calendar turned into a statement game the whole basketball world will remember. And how did it turn out? Caitlin Clark dropped 37 points, 10 assists, and 8 threes, giving us this wild reaction. Now, I want to highlight something very specific that went down during this game. Several players on the Chicago Sky, including DiJonai Carrington, honestly looked like they were hunting for a fight. Instead of whining to the media, Caitlin answered strictly with her game, and this sequence right here shows exactly what went down. That specific moment mattered because it highlighted the massive gulf between the outside drama surrounding Clark and how she actually responds on the floor. The media storm around her constantly threatens to spin out of control, while Clark herself usually just focuses on the very next possession, which is probably why these situations get so completely explosive. Her matchups never blend into an ordinary regular season slate because she is simply not your average player. With millions tuning in every single night, every clash involving Clark gets magnified tenfold, turning every heated exchange into instant replay material, making the scratches on her arm mean something far bigger. They became powerful symbols. To Clark supporters, they symbolized an ongoing trend of opponents playing overly physical against the league marquee superstar while the officials failed to step in. Yet the strongest argument requires zero conspiracy theories, which makes this entire debate even more compelling. Referees do not need to huddle in a dark backroom plotting like comic book villains over who gets free throws. Inconsistency alone is more than enough to create massive controversy. That inconsistency is vastly more damaging, far more routine, and completely believable as DiJonai Carrington fouls Kayla Clark right here. Look at this play, man. She reaches all the way across, clearly fouling Caitlin Clark with zero play on the ball. Caitlin has the rock held out here, making it obvious you caught nothing but arm instead of the basketball. If you actually got leather, the ball would have popped loose from Caitlin Clark's hands or been visibly redirected. It would have skittered away into a loose ball, but Caitlin maintains full, uninterrupted control of her dribble. What she cannot control is defenders invading her space, hand-checking her body, and smacking her across the arms, and the moment the referee blows the whistle, you immediately push back. Instead of taking ownership, you lean right into the victim role, letting that narrative get weaponized across the community. Fans notice immediately when one player gets whistled for hand-checking, while another gets away with the exact same contact. Players catch on fast when physical contact is allowed for 3 quarters before referees suddenly decide to squeeze the whistle. Everyone notices when the standard changes wildly from one officiating crew to the next, or simply depends on what an official catches from one angle, making this issue far bigger than just Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has turned into a league where millions of viewers track, analyze, and debate every single physical collision, ready to slow-mo every possession with ultimate confidence. While quoting a rulebook they have probably never cracked open. The league now operates with zero margin for error, even if the angry mob online is not always correct. Within minutes, any questionable whistle is dissected across television from 4 different camera angles. Every heated sequence gets slowed down frame by frame, and every missed call instantly gets funneled into a much larger cultural debate. This showdown between DiJonai Carrington and Caitlin Clark raises a legitimate basketball question: how do you actually guard a player like Caitlin Clark? She pulls up from so deep that defenders legitimately wonder if their scouting report completely forgot half the floor. Giving her any breathing room out there is purely suicidal. Nobody forced you to hard foul Sophie Cunningham, head to the locker room, and start tweeting about privilege. You chose to put that spotlight on yourself. And heading into this showdown, everyone wanted to see what DiJonai Carrington would do, but she laid a complete egg. Classic clout chasing by Carrington. It would not be a typical matchup without her chasing clout, resorting to dirty tricks to get under opponents' skin, desperately trying to bait Caitlin Clark because DiJonai Carrington was completely unraveled out on the floor. Clark will instantly put the rock on the floor and attack the open space defenders leave behind. Overcommitting out at the arc creates another massive problem, because she sees passing lanes that are totally invisible to everyone else on the floor until the ball lands at a teammate hands for an easy layup. Focusing purely on shutting down her scoring is just as dangerous. Because of this, defenders naturally try to get physical and make life miserable for her. And look, that game plan is not unique at all. Basketball has always been a physical, grinding sport, especially when opposing teams are doing everything they can to slow down an elite scorer and playmaker who can dominate a game in so many different ways. The real debate is not whether defenders should play aggressive defense, but where you draw the line once that physical play crosses into illegal contact. And when the player taking all that heavy contact keeps putting up historic numbers despite the pressure, that question becomes even more critical. Opponents will keep testing what referees permit as Clark becomes more dangerous. The fan frustration shown throughout all of this comes down to Clark taking heavy contact and blatant grabbing while receiving far fewer whistles than most spectators feel those plays deserve. At the same time, it is equally important to recognize that hard collisions or visible scratches do not always mean dirty intent. That is exactly where this whole discussion gets a lot more complicated than social media usually allows. DiJonai Carrington has completely wrecked her reputation here. She has done serious damage to her standing. Honestly, the last couple of weeks have not been kind to her at all. They really have not, because everyone knew the situation heading into that Indiana Fever game. She is not out there headhunting on every single possession. Just look back at when Monique Billings was driving to the rim for that layup. We saw what a clean chase down block and a legitimate rejection from behind actually look like. Just as Caitlin Clark deserves consistent officiating without every missed whistle being treated as a league conspiracy, DiJonai Carrington can play an aggressive, physical brand of defense without every physical play getting instantly branded as dirty. Fans have every right to be frustrated by questionable calls. But that does not justify inventing motives without evidence. An officiating issue does not mean the WNBA is holding secret meetings inside a volcano with referees deciding how many free throws Clark gets to shoot. The much more realistic explanation is plain inconsistency, which is damaging enough on its own. But judging by the reactions across the internet, the debate that followed seemed far more focused on miscalls, scratches, and potential injuries than on the actual basketball being played. Nobody is asking the WNBA to turn defense into a polite social gathering where players exchange compliments before switching possessions. Basketball should stay tough and physical, but the officiating standards have to be consistent. When illegal contact happens, blow the whistle. Every player deserves protection under the exact same standard, while clean, physical defense should still be allowed to thrive. And the league cannot afford to wait until social media produces a 47-part slow-motion breakdown before deciding whether a play warrants review. How do you like me now? How do you like me now? Did you like that performance? Did you like the Caitlin Clark show in Chicago? Because that was a clinic, and she proved anybody can get it on any given night. Was that white privilege? Now hold on, DiJonai Carrington. Was 37 points just white privilege? 10 assists? 37 points, a massive double-double? Was that double-double white privilege too? Was hitting 8 3-pointers right in your face pulling up from way downtown? When it comes to Clark, this latest chapter confirms what opponents already know. Trying to rattle her is a dangerous game. She just gets sharper at turning that hostile energy into fuel whenever the atmosphere gets loud. Against Chicago, the physical play sparked endless debate. You could feel the tension, and the drama around the matchup was boiling over. And through all of it, Clark finished with 8 3-pointers, 10 assists, and 37 points. That is why this entire narrative is so tough to stomach for her critics. Chicago finished with 90 points, while Indiana ran away with 113. Clark poured in 37 points, dished out 10 assists, and hit 8 threes, marking her 5th career game with at least 30 points and 10 assists. In fact, Clark now has more of those 30 and 10 performances than the entire history of the WNBA combined. That is the kind of historic stat line that completely elevates the debate around this matchup. Still, this controversy is not going away anytime soon, with fans continuing to break down the film and argue every whistle, scrutinizing every future matchup between Clark and Carrington with the kind of intense focus usually reserved for a lunar landing. She came out firing right from the jump, and nobody can pretend otherwise. The minute Caitlin Clark checked into that game, a switch instantly flipped. It felt like she decided right then and there that she was going to Aura Farm. Getting viral clips was pretty much all she cared about, and that was the only thing that mattered because she clearly circled this date on her calendar just to go right after Caitlin Clark and taunt her. She ended up putting up a brick center performance out there. You have 14,000 people liking a brick center, but look, this game proved that trying to make Caitlin Clark uncomfortable simply has not been an effective way to slow her down. Every single mark on her arm is going to get heavily scrutinized by spectators the moment she walks off the floor. Every contentious play is going to get slowed down right under the microscope, and every referee out there suddenly becomes the focus of amateur film breakdown. Then she steps right back onto the court and responds in a way that elevates the entire conversation. She can keep scoring, creating high-level chances, while forcing opponents to confront the exact problem that triggered the rough play in the first place. How do you actually shut her down without sparking another massive debate? Opponents, the spectators, and league officials might want to stay tuned if they really believe this drama would just wrap up with a couple of bruises and one heated matchup against Caitlin Clark. The story never truly ends when that final horn sounds, because sometimes it merely sets the stage for the next chapter and the next fiery debate, heading right into the next matchup where everybody is dialed in to see what goes down when the whistle blows and the physical intensity ramps up. And when Caitlin Clark decides that letting her game do all the talking is clearly the best course of action.